This podcast episode is an episode in the series of Listening to Canberra Voices made at the Faculty of Arts and Design at the University of Canberra in 2024.
I would like to welcome our esteemed guest, Anika Chan. Say hi.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a fourth-year student at the Australian National University. Shock, horror. And I study astrophysics and violin performance. I moved here 4 years ago for my degree. I grew up in Sydney. And I have played the violin since I was 4. And I've loved science since Stephen Hawking died.
Wow, that is incredible note. And I know, shock and horror, ANU student.
Yeah, sorry, imposter.
Existing on UC campus. Let's start this off. Tell us a little bit about your music career.
I initially did not want to be a musician. I had done music all the way through, as I said, since basically kindergarten. And it was because my parents were both musicians. So I was like, okay, I'll do the music. I did orchestras since I was 10 years old, and both me and my sister would do them. She's a cellist. It was not until I got to about the age of 16 that I realized that my life would be very strange if I didn't play music as well. And after having a little bit of an existential crisis with my physics teacher, who was also a musician, he was like, oh yeah, science will be fulfilling for you. I haven't touched my instrument in 5 years. And I burst into tears on the spot.
Oh dear.
So that's why I do the double degree. So I came here, I started the music degree, and I quickly got into the Canberra classical music scene because it turns out there are not a lot of violinists here. So
Interesting.
I'm in a string quartet called the Ellery of String Quartet that I started with some friends who were part of a scholarship program that I'm part of, sponsored by the Wesley Uniting Church in Forest. Thank you very much. They give me money to attend church. It's a good deal if you ask me. And we've been playing together since late 2021. We've, over the past 3 years, done our own concerts. We've also been lucky enough to perform at things like the National Folk Festival, the Canberra International Music Festival, and collaborate with some really cool people like William Barton, who's a didgeridoo player, John Schumann, who wrote a song called I Was Only 19, which apparently everyone knows, but I'd never heard of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never heard of Only 19.
Sorry, John.
You know, that represents my hometown. Good old Puckapunyal. Very important. That's the only representation Puckapunyal gets is in that song.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm a little bit disappointed.
I know it now. I've done the work.
And you did a collaboration with them.
Yes, yeah. It was for the Canberra Writers Festival in either 2022 or 2023. I can't remember. But aside from that, I dabbled in a little bit of non-classical music. We've done folk stuff, obviously. We did National Folk Festival, but I was also part of a indie folk band for a while called the Sunfishers with some of my other musical friends.
Oh, how long did the Sunfishers last?
A year. We got really busy really quickly.
Yeah.
It was in second year. Yeah.
As is standard with university stuff.
Yes.
But you've kept Ellery going.
We have, yeah. That's mostly because people just keep asking us to do stuff. That's how I ended up also playing with Canberra Sinfonia. They had asked us to lead all of the instrument sections for a project with a pianist, Ronan Apkar, who is a couple of years older than me. And he had gone and found all of these pieces of music by an Australian composer called Dulcie Holland. She's very well known for her music education side of things, but she was also quite a prolific composer. And there was this, I think it was a sinfonia for strings and piano that he had discovered. So we were doing the world premiere of that. He ended up going on to write a CD and everything, which was very well acclaimed. So very happy to know him and to be associated with him.
World premiere is big words. Let's shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to start asking you about science.
Ow.
The other side of it is music-science balance.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you studying?
I am an astrophysics major, so I study astronomy. But my research at the moment is in applied metrology. Metrology is the study of measurement. So what I do is I shoot lasers at things and see what happens, to put it really blankly.
Like a true sci-fi enthusiast.
Yes.
Shooting lasers is all science has to offer.
I had initially started, my first ever project was in nuclear physics, where I was also, I guess, just shooting stuff at other stuff. But the first year project, trust 3 18-year-olds with a particle accelerator, see what could go wrong.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yes.
How much is that piece of scientific equipment worth?
Like $500 million.
Billion?
Yeah. Did I get it wrong this morning?
It's a billion this morning.
Oh, no. It's worth like $500 million.
That's a large sum of money.
That's how the nuclear physics department will make money, is by loaning out the accelerator time to other people, because you can make a lot of money by doing that. It's the same with what we do with the telescopes up at Mount Stromlo and also Siding Spring Observatory in Coonabarabran, middle of New South Wales.
Is the Coonabarabran silo owned by ANU?
Yeah, Siding Spring Observatory is owned by ANU.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Actually, my students are on a field trip there right now.
Wow. So cool.
Wow.
3 scientific disciplines seem like a lot.
It was kind of more of a journey thing, because I think the way that a lot of people who want to go into academia approach research is that you just try a bunch of things until you land on something. So I started in nuclear physics and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I also don't know what's going on and I'm stupid and 18. That's fine. I'll just move on and do something else next summer. And then I started doing galaxy evolution. So I was studying galactic scale outflows, which is basically just wind.
Space wind.
Yeah, space wind. And why that's important is because if you have a galaxy and you've got all of this wind and it's blowing all of the gas and dust out of the galaxy, then the galaxy has nothing to make stars with. That process is known as quenching. So we want to study how galaxies evolve over time due to having all of the material in them kind of moved around. How that can affect things like star formation or like, I don't know, it was mostly star formation. That was second year and also third year. And then in the middle of my third year, I applied on a whim for a winter program at the ANU's Centre for Gravitational Astrophysics. And the only reason why is because it had one specific word in the project description, and I figured that it would be fine. It had basically nothing to do with that word, and I was suddenly thrown into like optical physics and instrumentation, which is something I swore I'd never do. Everybody who's in physics, like in third year and that sort of thing, they'll always go, oh no, I could never do optical physics. That sounds gross. And then all of the astrophysics students are like, I could never do instrumentation. That sounds gross. And then I ended up in a project in it and I was like, I'm going to die. Didn't die. So my research was basically using lasers to measure trace amounts of gas. So that's good for things like if we're studying pollution or just our atmosphere in general. It has industrial applications. So things like if you want to see if some dangerous chemical gas is going to seep into the room, you can just shoot a laser at it and then it will tell you whether the gas is present.
Sick.
Yeah.
Science is wild.
Yeah.
So you haven't lost an initial love for astrophysics?
No.
It's just been matters of convenience, is that the right word?
Kind of, yeah. I see it as shifting opportunities. I've gotten the opportunity to try all of these different things, and I've had a wonderful array of supervisors who've been super supportive, even though I can be really stupid, especially since I didn't have any optics knowledge going into it, and that's kind of very necessary for lasers. I also didn't have any engineering knowledge, and a lot of the things that I do involved making stuff. Which is interesting. In terms of the astrophysics, I tutor one of the second year astro courses, which I really enjoy. And my honours project next year will be building part of a telescope that will go in space at some point. So there's still astro in there, and it's really good that I know all of the theory and I still have my galaxy evolution stuff, but I don't want to sit behind a computer anymore. I want to make stuff.
I want to ask you, this all seems like a lot. You've mentioned being in your band, you've mentioned tutoring, you've mentioned studying papers and putting things into space. How do you manage it all?
Look, these are all really things that I enjoy and that I feel like I cannot live without. I would be very, very sad if somebody told me that, no, I cannot go and launch things into space, or no, I cannot go and, I don't know, play string quartet concerts. And so you kind of just deal with it. When people ask me this, the quick answer I give them is that if you don't look down, you'll be fine.
That is a daunting thought.
The crux of it is that I just try and keep myself healthy and sleep as much as I can. And most importantly, I have a network of friends who keep me in check and who support me and listen when I have things that I need to rant about, because there's plenty. And I think that's what's been keeping me afloat. It's to have people I know that I can trust and that support me and that understand what I'm going through workload-wise.
Do you have any, I'd say, advice for people who see you as a bit of an inspiration? People who would see your workload and go, wow, being able to manage all that sounds wonderful. I wish I could be able to do that.
I would hope that those people do not just see the fact that I do everything and ascribe value to it based on that. If you're dedicated enough and if you are organized enough, you'll make it work. I've not had a scenario where I genuinely could not make something work. It works out. Have a little bit more faith in yourself.
Well, you said that there's nothing that you haven't been able to work out. That, to me, implies that you've had to go through the effort of working things out, which means that something has stopped it from being easy to complete.
Yeah, I mean, there's always things like organization and everything. Eventually, if you just hash it out with everybody, you'll find a time that you for everything. Like, organizing rehearsals is really annoying sometimes, especially when certain people don't tell you that they're not available until the day before, and you're like, well, crap, now we don't have this rehearsal time. The thing that has been the most challenging for me is more systemic. I am a queer woman of color in a very white male-dominated field. And that comes with a lot of condescending remarks and being underestimated and being harassed. And I think that's been the thing that I was shocked about when I came here, especially from Sydney, because I assumed that Canberra was quite progressive, and generally it is. But it can be quite disheartening when, say, you can see that a lecturer assumes that you have a lower baseline knowledge because you appear feminine, or that there are just like physics guys who find it trivial to make fun of you or to kind of treat you as some sort of little pet around in classes and that sort of thing. And also when people don't shower, it's a huge problem. Oh my gosh. How am I supposed to focus on quantum mechanics when every single person on my table stinks? But that aside.
Stinking and having a superiority complex about it.
Yeah, look.
Disgusting.
It's a very deep-rooted issue, and I can see it shifting already, but it's very strange to come into an environment where you are not inherently understood, which is why it's so important to have people who can relate to you, who on a superficial level look like you, because then if you don't see people who are like you doing the things that you want to do, then it becomes a lot harder to be motivated to see it through. It's a very strange period in time systemically for marginalized groups in STEM, where we have the ability to go out and do all of these things, but there are still these leftover things from society that kind of present small, invisible, but present boundaries. And it's been an interesting journey to try and figure out how I fit in there.
You study across two different disciplines, both music and science. How do you feel that sort of systemic sexism, I guess, to boil it down, I'm sure there's a larger, more complicated word for it than that, but I'll keep it simple. How do you think that prejudice comes in comparing those two disciplines together?
Ultimately, there's elitism in both. It just depends on where it comes from.
Right.
I think in classical music, it's a lot more elitist in terms of like socioeconomic class. Music is a very expensive thing. To have a good instrument, to maintain that, like instrumental lessons, if you have accompanists or if you go to like different orchestra programs when you're younger and that sort of thing. There are a lot of people who've been brought up with a very competitive nature in the sense that they have to be the leader, they have to be the best. And it breeds really nasty people. Physics can be the same, but I think that the kind of the societal boundaries that come there are rooted in the patriarchal and Eurocentric culture of physics research, and this goes for disciplines that are adjacent, such as engineering, particularly computer science and mathematics. I know people who are not cisgendered male who have been discouraged from fields such as computer science and mathematics because they didn't find it a welcoming environment for them. I think music depends a lot on the people that you surround yourself with, in the sense that I've been lucky that I've been in this string quartet for 3 years, and it's full of people who I consider my close friends, who are lovely people who would not do anything stupid. But in physics, it's more, in academia particularly, it's more of a corporate setting than you would think, in that you have people who are up the top who have been there for ages, and because of the culture of it, they tend to be old white men. It's hard to see it through. But I think both disciplines are changing. There's progress being made. Music has the advantage of progressiveness over physics, I think. We're always looking for something new in music, and that lends itself better to progression in terms of things like gender, race, and sexuality and that sort of thing. Whereas physics has not had the need to do that. Well, it does, but not as fundamentally as music does. There isn't really the need for a human aspect in physics the way that there is in music, which I think is part of the reason why I like both and why I think that they go so well together, is because I think that physics keeps me exploring, but music keeps me grounded.